Now I think that there is an unambiguous inclusion of securities in the definition of goods. And that means all stock trading as well, I would imagine. Now I'm trying to get from both of you what this means for the stock markets, for the business of brokerages, for, let's say, even the average Joe investor. Does he or she get impacted and will have to pay a GST additional to an STT, or how does it work?
As I said earlier, GST is a combination of some of the state level concept and some of the central level concept. So
Correct.
as on today, if we look at most of the state VAT laws, they say that securities are goods, but they are excluded from the purpose of levy of current level of indirect taxes like VAT.
Correct.
When I go to service tax, under the service tax definition, they say that securities are goods and therefore no service tax applicable on that. And
So
because
they fall
of
in the
this,
crack,
they
right?
fall in between the crack and there is no tax applicable on that
Correct.
entire securities.
But under
GST, they have specifically included the word securities into the definition of goods. It means that any supply of goods which is taxed under GST, which also will be now covered securities, and that will have an impact of GST applicable on the same.
No, so if I don't buy shares because I'm a journalist, but let's assume that if you bought shares, would you now have to pay a GST additional to the STT that you pay?
That's what it looked like from the draft wording of the GST law.
At what rate will that GST apply? At the R&R rate, or will there be a different rate, or?
As of now, the rates or the schedules are not yet announced. So we have to see where they cover it in terms of the particular commodity. But once the schedule of rates are announced, likely to be in month of July, we have to see where it falls. It could be into a residual category if they have not yet thought through about where the securities will fall into. There could be an issue on that. Plus, there will be some amount of stamp duty and other elements which will be continue to be applicable in terms of purchase of shares and all that. So there are a plethora of ambiguity revolving around securities, and the stockbroking firms and the actual brokers or the person who are dealing in the shares have to be very watchful and careful as far as this particular inclusion of word security into the definition of goods is concerned.
My sense is that securities which are going to be bought by an investor or an individual is nature of an investment and not nature of a consumption. So securities and nature of stock in trade for a broker is probably going to be something which he buys and sells, not for his investment, but for his day-to-day this thing. It's likely that people who are in the business of trading in securities as stock in trade are likely to be the ones who are going to be captured by this law. I feel, again, I'm not too clear.
Okay.
This is still a very, very early this thing. But where you're an investor and you're doing this as an investment, because GST always is a tax on consumption. It's a destination-based consumption tax, as they say. So according to me, where you are just somebody who's buying a share for the purpose of investment, you may be out of this. I'm not sure.